The new Warzone is on the horizon, and I have played the new Warzone early, and today I'm going to bring you guys everything that you need to know going into the new Warzone. There's a lot changing this year, and a lot that plays very differently from my experience of playing Urzikstan in Battle Royale back at Call of Duty Next. And today I want to arm you guys with some of that information to make you prepared for day one. So rather than being one of those players who's just fumbling around with their settings and trying to figure out where things are and how things work, from day one and from the get-go, you can be an effective player in Warzone and have a good time. Make sure to drop a like and a subscribe, we're on the road to 200k, and share this with your friends as well so your squad is ready for day one of Warzone. Before we begin, today's video is sponsored by Acer, and their extremely powerful Predator Orion X, which comes with 3 months of Game Pass included. You get this 3 months Game Pass with any Acer Nitro or Acer Predator product that you purchase. Acer Predator's Orion X desktop can drive any of the games in the vast library of Game Pass at maximum performance. This is all thanks to the eye-watering i9 13900KS clocking to 6 GHz on its performance cores whilst you're gaming, and the RTX 4090. And all of this is brought together by a compact spaceship-inspired design with liquid AI cooling to keep the thermals low and your frames high. This is without a doubt one of the most performant small form factor systems, and right now you can go pre-order and pre-purchase from Currys in the United Kingdom to get hundreds of Currys vouchers on your purchase. Check out the links in the description below to see the Predator Orion X. So to start with, before you even go into the game, there are 2 things that you need to take care of, because these are big changes in Warzone that are definitely going to affect how you play. The first is your interaction key, and the second is your perk system. Now, the interact key is going to be one of the most used keys in the game this year in Warzone, between horizontal zip lines, new lootable items, and interacting with floor loot a little bit differently this year. There is a lot here that's going to shift. Under your reload and interact behavior inside your settings for Warzone, because Warzone settings are separate to the settings for Modern Warfare 3, I would highly recommend having prioritized to interact. This means that you have to hold down square or X on the reload key in order to reload, and tapping things allows you to interact with objects quickly. This is going to be great for hitting ziplines quickly, getting in and out of vehicles rapidly, or just opening and closing doors. There's a lot more to interact with this year, so I feel like prioritize interact is a #1 setting that you should have from the beginning of Warzone 3. And next up is the perk system. This year, there are tons of new perks heading into Warzone, and whilst we don't know the exact slots, whether they'll be perk 1, perk 2, or perk 3, some of these are perks to definitely have on your radar. Not only are you going to be able to use these perks, but being aware that they exist and could be a reason you're killed in the game is something worth taking note of. We have the brand new perk Irradiated, which allows you to move faster and take less damage in the gas. Now, we don't know how powerful this is going to be, but it's worth noting that gas plays could become a little bit more common and frequent in the final zones. We have the return of Combat Scout, which briefly pings your location to the rest of an enemy team if you receive damage from somebody with Combat Scout, and vice versa if you deal damage. That person will be pinged for your teammates to see. Next, we have Resolute, and this is definitely one to pay attention to for fine aim and quick adjustments, because when you take damage from gunfire, the perk Resolute grants a short bonus to movement speed, probably increasing your attack sprint speed or giving you just a short jolt of energy. This is something to keep an eye on because it's definitely going to bust up your consistency of how you aim an opponent, and if you happen to start shooting at somebody with Resolute, be ready for them to start moving around quickly. Likewise, this will give you escape options if you decide to use Resolute if you come into enemy fire. The perk Shrouded drops a smoke grenade whenever you're downed by an opponent. This is really handy for defending yourself and allowing your teammates to get you a res, but if you encounter an enemy team and they have Shrouded equipped, you need to mentally bear in mind what that person is going to look like when they go down, so that you can still get the finish through the smoke. We have Mountaineer, which reduces fall damage, a handy perk for some of you who struggle with that a little bit, and likewise, maybe expect a few more reckless plays from some people who are using it. And then we have 2 of the perks that I think I'm paying the most attention to, and that is Stalker and Escapist. Stalker, it gives you increased strafe and aim down sight movement speed, which is going to be huge for outplaying opponents. And Escapist is going to give you an increased down speed, prone speed, and crouching speed, allowing you faster movement speed in traditionally more quiet formats of moving. crouch walking is one of the fastest ways to close a gap on an opponent without you hearing them, and now you'll have a movement buff with that. The other perk to keep an eye on is Faculty. For those of you who use Claymores and Bouncing Betties, Faculty delays the trigger of those explosions when sprinting, meaning if somebody aggro sprints through your door to push you, your explosive probably isn't going to save you if you're not paying attention to that push. And likewise, this is a fantastic option for players who want to be aggressive against teams who are sitting tight or teams who are camping in buildings. This perk also warns you of nearby equipment like Claymores and Bouncing Betties, which may alert you to the presence of enemies in the area, and reduces combat noise like gunfire. Once you're in game, the next major change you need to look out for is the new and improved Gulag system. This works differently from any Gulag you've experienced before, and no longer has an overtime system where capturing the flag is possible to win the game. Instead, this year there will be a zipline in the middle of the Gulag that if you manage to get on and go up without being killed, counts as an extraction, meaning you win the Gulag and your opponent loses. Likewise, if you don't notice your enemy using the zipline and they escape, you lose the Gulag. There are also variants of the Gulag this year that offer limited time events. For example, there is a version of the Gulag that has night vision goggles and takes place in the pitch dark. There's another one which has excessive amounts of cash which will allow you to regain if your team has been wiped, meaning you can scoop up all that cash before you win the Gulag. And there's another one which has an OP level of loot, meaning that the weapons that you will have equipped when you challenge each other in the Gulag will be fully decked high rarity weapons, allowing you to regain back in the regular map more easily. This Gulag is a lot more symmetrical and plays a lot more like the original Gulag showers with the addition of the zipline, so be prepared for that. Now that you're actually in Urzikstan, there are a couple of things you need to be aware of, because Urzikstan is going to flow very differently to how other games have played. And this is down to a number of changes not only to the map, but also to the gameplay and gunplay. The first major thing to take note of is that one-shot sniping is back. The Cat AMR, alongside potentially some other snipers in the game, are going to have one-shot capability. So seeing a sniper glint again is something you need to be fearful of, or at least something you need to bear in mind. A decent sniper in this game is going to have the ability to one-shot headshot down you over distance, and if you don't pay attention to that and you go into day one without that awareness, chances are you're going to be challenging a lot of snipers and losing a lot of fights. There is a lot more movement speed in Modern Warfare 3's version of Warzone that will allow you to counteract snipers effectively, so zigzagging, crouch sliding, and moving around the place is really going to put their aim off this time around. Speaking of winning fights, the gunplay dynamic in this version of Warzone is radically different from what you played in the Modern Warfare 2 version of Warzone. And the biggest difference is that being aggressive is being rewarded. The Ghost perk no longer works if you're stationary in this game, there are red dots on the minimap when you fire an unsuppressed weapon, and this game rewards aggressive movement. You can actually challenge opponents by crouch sliding into them, jump shotting them around the corner, and you have a plethora of movement options from drop shotting, jump shotting, crouch sliding, and even diving to some extent to allow you to play aggressively. And all of the animations from Modern Warfare 2, like mantling over objects, moving in and out of sliding, being able to ADS while sliding, are completely different. They are all much quicker, you have the ability to aim down sight whilst you slide, and generally speaking, aggressive gameplay is going to be king. There will always be a place for good positioning, holding good angles, holding good head glitches, and holding higher ground in terms of general Warzone and Battle Royale gameplay. But when it comes to those messy gunfights between those movements to position, and you just run into a squad, the teams and players that utilize that movement effectively and engage with their opponents by breaking their cameras or making it difficult for them to track them are going to win the majority of their gunfights. Holding a little angle like you would in Modern Warfare 2 is not going to work anymore. Somebody is going to jump clean around that corner or crouch slide around that corner and make your day a misery. For me, next up, it's really worth mentioning that Urzikstan is going to play very differently to what you've experienced before, because there is a lot of building density and a lot of cover density. So whilst I did say that aggressive gameplay is going to be very much rewarded, being intelligent with positioning is still something that can't be understated. There are tons of buildings in Urzikstan, many of them offering different variations of height, many of them having multiple zip lines and ladders to rooftops, and many of them having lots of little bits of cover in between. Whether you're in the suburbs, the low town, or the city, moving from place to place is going to be something that's far easier to do and gives you an abundance of cover. So players and teams that utilize that cover effectively and keep buildings and trees and sightlines between them and their opponents are going to be able to move around more freely and also more safely. But the flip side of this coin is that you're going to have to expect the unexpected. We have horizontal zip lines, vertical zip lines, multiple buildings with easy accessible rooftops, players who can dive down on you from height positions, and we have a much faster mantling and movement system. So expect players where you wouldn't conventionally expect them. Look around to your rooftops or your mid-tier balconies. Keep eyes out in different little alleyways, different little corners, and places that could be used as good hiding spots. It's difficult to convey how much of a difference this is going to be when you guys go into the new map, but it's something you should be definitely aware of. Players are going to be able to flank you in more ways than they probably have ever before. This combines the movement from the Modern Warfare 2019 era with better map design and more options to be aggressive from some of the more later maps that we've seen in Warzone. So Urzikstan is really the best of both worlds. And I'm sure you guys will establish early on that there are a number of rotations, jump spots, and buildings that you can use to flank opponents very effectively. And that can also be used against you very quickly. So just be a little bit more wary and a little bit more prepared on day one, and try some things that are a little bit risky yourself. Whether that's using a horizontal zip for a push, or trying a jump up which you're not quite sure you can make. You'll be surprised at how much of this has been designed with aggressive gameplay in mind, and how much you can use that density in your favor. And in terms of the dynamic of how urzikstan plays, I can't go away from not mentioning these last two elements, and that is the water and the new horizontal zip lines. Water is completely different in this game. Everybody has a sidearm that they can use underwater, including yourself, but the water is far clearer this year. This is not going to be the quick escape that you thought it was from previous games like Modern Warfare 2, but it will offer you a safety route if you can get out of there quickly. And this water clarity is two-way. So if you're underwater looking at somebody above ground, you're going to see them very clearly, and they're going to see you very clearly. And on top of having a pistol whenever you're underwater, you'll also have a pistol whenever you're on a ladder, hanging from a ledge, or any other location where ledge hanging is possible, and you will have that sidearm available to you. So don't be surprised if somebody on the ladder starts blasting away at you with a sidearm and ends up being fairly effective. It's something you're going to have to be prepared for. And finally, of course, we have the horizontal zip lines. Now, horizontal zips, vertical zips, and the number of cranes that you'll find around the map that you can use to utilize, as well as the general redeploy drones, are going to be things that are going to be used in abundance in this map, which is why I mentioned changing to prioritize to interact. But it's just worth being aware of the fact that this time, when you're holding up a position, you really need to be looking everywhere. Staring out of a window and not covering your back just isn't going to cut it in this map. Somebody could horizontal zip to you, they could vertically land on you from a redeploy drone, they could push you from a jump up that you're not expecting. And this year, more than any time, get your friends to look around. If you're holding a position, look around as much as humanly possible, because identifying where a threat is coming from, whether it's a horizontal, vertical zip, a crane, a parachute drop-off, whatever it so happens to be, is going to be a key fact and figure in whether or not you live or die in these games of Warzone. So folks, that's about it for every tip that I have going into the new iteration of Warzone. Please drop a like if you found this useful, share it to your mates so you're ready for day one, and make sure to hit the sub button as well because we're on the road to 200k. As always folks, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.